Hello everyone. Today we're going to cover Flask in the shortest possible time. Everything we need to know. But for more advanced information, guides, cheat sheets, and everything else, help consultations, an advanced backend course, all of that is on my Telegram channel linked in the description. Go to the description, follow the link to my Telegram channel, and subscribe. There's honestly a lot of interesting stuff there. Plus, all the source code from this video or from other videos, that's all in the Telegram channel. So check it out and subscribe. Let's start with what Flask actually is. Flask is a micro framework that allows you to quickly develop applications, specifically microservice applications. It's actually more suited for microservice applications, just like Fast API for that matter. To begin with, the main difference between Flask and Django is that Django is a huge, comprehensive framework that includes a massive number of modules for all sorts of things. Flask, on the other hand, simply lets you connect only what you need from the start. Let's start by figuring out how to launch our application. To get everything up and running, we'll use three dependencies. These are Flask itself, then Squalchemy for interacting with the database, and also Flask Migrate for handling migrations, which by the way uses Alembic under the hood. On top of that, we need our Postgres database. Setting up the database here is very simple, just a Docker Compose file in YAML format. We simply run Docker Compose app and our database starts up. Next, we see that we have Postgres, user, Postgres, password, and DB. We go into core and create a core service. Well, no, rather not a service, but a core layer. What is the core layer? It's everything related to our connections, initialization, and so on. That's our core layer. Basically, all the main dependencies. Here we also specify the URL for our database. Again, I should mention that the structure itself, the architecture might not be entirely correct because it was done as quickly as possible under very tight deadlines, but it will give a good representation of what we want to see from Flask. Here we've specified our path to the database, connected to it, initialize Flask, initialize SQL Alchemy, and set up migrations. After that, in order to work with our database and make sure everything is fine, we need to write our entity. We go to the user. Everything here is very simple. We import our DB from the core service. We have a module with DB, which we already inherit from, and it allows us to create our tables. We create the user module table, which will reference and create the table name user. Next, we have two fields, just two regular fields, our ID, which is the primary column and simply increments by 1, and our name will just be a string where we will store the value. But the main thing for us is our name, and when we reference sort of as a string our user module, we will get the user's name. After that, we wrote our entity. Everything is super cool, but I haven't mentioned that we need to start all of this up. To start everything, we create a main py file. We also have the option to write an export for the Flask app and also specify main py so that when we use the Flask run command, everything starts up right away. So we type Flask run, it starts up, and we check if name equals main app run launches, and we run it in debug mode. If we launch it and see that something has started, that's very good. Next, what does it mean to register a blueprint? When we work with Flask, Flask has things called blueprints. What are they? When we work with many different routes, when we set up various routings and so on, we need to do this in different files. Accordingly, for this, we have blueprints, which allow us to create separate instances of our router in different files, and then connect them to our main instance. So as we can see here, app register blueprint, we pass our router here and specify a prefix. It's all very simple. And our user, which is already a root, will be connected to our main branch. So let's go over it once more. What do we have here? We connect our core service, everything we have in the core, then we connect everything we have in the root specifically. Our user, we hook it up and launch our application. Here we can specify things as well. But before you continue watching, I highly recommend you check the description, go to my Telegram channel and subscribe, because the newest, most up-to-date and first-hand information is released there. There I conduct polls on which technology we should review next. There will also be contests for free consultations and so on. There will be lots of new perks. So go to my Telegram channel and subscribe. And earlier, there we specify which host we want, ports, and so on. But that's not the point. Right now, we're looking specifically at this. And next, we see register blueprint. Let's go to the router. Let's go here. We see that we have two routers. We have a blueprint, user, and name. Okay, we've created our router. Next, we work with it. The main work with our Flask app is that here we simply define our routing where our request will go, and basically, we'll handle it in the required format. For those who don't know how requests work, how they function in the context of HTTP methods, statuses, and so on, all of that is covered in the Telegram channel. Go there and subscribe. I have a huge comprehensive video there specifically about this topic, how to work with it and how to deal with it. But for those who are already familiar, those who are more advanced, you understand that, for example, we have a get method, and we need to handle the get method in order to retrieve a single record. After that, we have something called services. In general, from an architectural standpoint, it's not quite correct to write logic directly in controllers. It's better to separate out the work with our database into services. Within services, we can also add another level of abstraction or repository for working specifically with our models, so that if, for example, we switch from Postgres to a new SQL database, we won't have any issues during the transition. There's a lot of room for creativity here. We can see that the first thing we do here is set up our routing, since we have a prefix or main entry point is by user. In our user module, we are specifically handling the username. Username is a dynamic parameter that we accept as an argument in our get user function, which acts as our controller with a get method. After that, our user get user, which serves as our service. We go there and see that we have two methods. In our get user method, we simply access our database and retrieve the user we need by their name. Or rather, we retrieve all users that match the given name. Then we have create user, which also takes a name as input. We map the provided name to our user model. Next, we take our session with the database, the one we have opened the data there, committed, and returned the name. In other words, we simply insert our data and see how it works. So when we receive a request to user name with the get method, okay, we process it, great. After that, we have a router that serves as the route for our user and handles post requests. Here, in order to work with any requests specifically in our endpoint, in our method, we have something called requests. In the request, we can access not only get JSON, which allows us to retrieve our JSON that we pass in, but we can also get things like headers, params, and so on. But since what we need is our data name, we get our name and then work with it in the context of passing it to create user and creating it here. Looks cool, trendy, useful. Now let's go to our database and see what we have here, and we can see that something is already set up. Let's delete it. 1, 2, confirm. All right, let's delete again, delete, super. That's it. Everything is deleted. And after that, let's run Flask run again. Okay, let's go to our HTTP client menu. Well, let's make a request to just user. We make a GET request, and we see that it's not found. Why not found? Because we're searching by name. Now let's add our user. Go to the body, select post, enter some JSON, then type in the name, hello, and send it. So let's see what response we get from the server. We see that the server's response is hello. If we now go back to our database, go to user, we see that hello has been added. Then if we want to do a get, we use user hello and we'll get our user. We did a bit of mapping. So we retrieved the data, used our generator, then mapped the ID and name, and returned our data. If we go in here, let's see what will be returned. We check, send a request. We see that our ID hello is being returned. That's basically it. We covered Flask as quickly and concisely as possible. But you'll find more detailed information, more in-depth videos, cheat sheets, code, and so on in my Telegram channel linked in the description. That's basically it. So subscribe to the channel and leave a like. Let's stay in touch.